Okay, so there's three types of triangles, right? There's acute, obtuse, and right. There's three types of triangles. We usually go knowing the angles. If we knew the angles based on the biggest angle of the triangle, we will call it acute, obtuse, or right. If the biggest angle is less than 90, we call it acute. If it is equal to 90, we call it right. And if it's bigger than 90, we call it obtuse, right? Based on the biggest angle of a triangle. And again, that's if I know the angles. Now, unfortunately, here I don't know the angles. All right, so let me figure another way. I only know the sides. Let me take a look at here. Let me go over some rules. One thing that we know is that a squared plus b squared, it is when it is equal to c squared, we know this happens when we have a right triangle. Now we're going to use this idea. We're going to use the values a, b, and c squared to find out if it's acute or obtuse. The other two choices that we can have is that a squared plus b squared is less than c squared, or we could have that a squared plus b squared is bigger than c squared. Right? Those are the other two choices. And those two choices are going to tell us whether the triangle is acute or obtuse. Now, before I continue, let me remind you that from the three sides, c squared is the biggest of the triangle, right? That's still gonna work. C squared is the biggest of the triangle. Now here on the first rule, a squared plus b squared is less than c squared. So the big side was still too big, right? The two small sides combined, when everything squared, a squared plus b squared, was still smaller than c squared because c squared it's a really big side. We're gonna call this triangle obtuse. So when c squared is still bigger, we're gonna call it obtuse. Now when c squared is smaller than a squared plus b squared, so that means that a squared plus b squared is bigger than c squared, so c squared is smaller, we're gonna call this acute. Make sure you guys write these formulas down. You can pause the video, write these formulas down, because in this lecture, I'm going to say, according to our formulas, and this is what I mean, these formulas. So I'm just going to say, according to our formulas, so you can pause it, write these formulas down. Let me take a look at our examples here. State if each triangle is acute, obtuse, or right. Let me square each of my sides. 9 squared is 81, right? 9 times 9 is 81. 15 times 15 is 225. So those are easy. Now, when you square a radical 115 times radical 15, when you square a radical, you just get the number in the inside. So that's even easier. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to add my two small numbers. So 81 plus 115. Let me leave a space because I don't know if I'm going to have a less than sign, greater than, equal to. Like, I don't know what I'm going to get. I'm going to leave a blank. And at the end, I'm going to have 225. Let me remind you, everything's square, right? So I have a squared, b squared, c squared. I'm adding the two small numbers. So let me add 81 plus 115. That is 196. One side is 196. The other side is 225. Okay. They're not equal, right? If they were equal, I will say right. C squared is bigger, right? Remember how the inequality sign looks like a mouth that it wants to eat the bigger part? So it wants to eat 225, right? Because if the first number is smaller, we read that as less than. 196 is less than 225. If the first number was big, we will read that sign as greater than. Okay, so here 196 is less than 225. According to our formulas, this tells me this is obtuse. My triangle is obtuse. So this angle, let me mark it with a arc right there. That angle, don't know the exact number of the angle. I just know it's more than 90, right? The big angle of the triangle is more than 90. So going back to the example that I've been saying, those those that put tile, those that build houses, when it's not a right triangle, if they know this formula, they will say, "Oh, it's more than 90, so I have to close this down." They know they know what they need to do to fix their mistake. Let's take a look at number 32. Let me square everything. 16 squared is 256. 10 squared is 100. Now, 8 radical 3. If I only had the 8 squared will be 64. Let me put it inside parentheses. If I only had the 3, radical 3 squared is 3. Now, because I have both, let me combine them. 64 times 3 is 192. So I see a squared, b squared, c squared. Let me add the two small numbers. 100 plus 192. Let me leave a space because I don't know which sign I'm going to get. 256. Now let me add the two small numbers, right? 100 plus 192. That gives me 292. And on the other side, I have 256. So I get this sign, right? 292 is bigger, so it wants to eat this. So 292 is bigger than 256. According to our formula, because c squared is smaller than a squared plus b squared, according to our formula, I'm going to call this acute. Let's take a look at number 33. Let me square everything. Let me start with the easy number. Squared and radical. Square root of 200 times the square root of 200 is just 200. You just get the number in the inside. Let me go with the 5. 5 squared is 25, right? Multiply by itself. 5 times 5. Now, 2 radical 43. If I only had the 2, 2 squared is 4, right? Because multiply by itself. If I only had the radical 43 squared is 43. Because I have both, let me multiply this. So I get 172. The biggest side is 200, so my c squared is 200. So let me just go once. Let me add the two small values. 25 plus 172. Let me leave a space. 200. Again, the space because I don't know if I'm going to get it less than, greater than, or equal to sign. Now, 25 plus 172 is 197. And I know 197 is less than 200. So based on our formula, this triangle is obtuse. All right, let's take a look at number 34. Let me square each of my sides. 15 squared is 225. 13 squared is 169. Now the 2 radical 14. If I only had the 2, it will be 4, right? 2 squared is 4. If I only had the radical, it will be 14. Now, because I have both, let me go 4 times 14, which is 56. So let me add these things up. Let's see, 56 plus 169. I'm adding the two small numbers. Oh, not equal, because I don't know if it's equal or not. Let me leave a space. 225. Now 56 plus 169 is 225. Oh, so I did get an equal sign. So 225 is equal to 225. According to our formula, this is a right triangle. All right, let's take a look at number 35. Let me square everything. So 7 squared is 49. 5 squared is 25. I multiply each number by itself, right? 7 times 7, 5 times 5. Now, when you square a radical, it's even easier. You just get the number on the inside. All right, let me add the two small numbers. 25 plus 49. Let me leave a space. 74. Now, 25 plus 49 is 74. The other side is 74. So 74 equals 74. So according to our formula, this is a right triangle. Let's take a look at number 36. Let me square everything. So 49, 64. Now here, if it's only the 2, it will be 4. If it's only the radical, it will be 7 because it's both 28. Okay. Let me add the two small values. So 28 plus 49. Let me leave a space, 64. 28 plus 49 is 77. Okay, so it's not a right triangle, right? I don't get an equal sign. 77 is bigger than 64. So according to our formula, this is acute.